Welcome to my full day of eating, and if you're someone who loves food and you love getting ripped and you love having a six-pack, then this video is gonna be for you. My name is Trent Harrison. I am the CEO of Ransom Bodies Training, and we specialize in helping men transform their bodies and also their lives through flexible dieting. What I'm gonna do in this video is I'm gonna break down my full day of eating to get ripped in every single meal, and also the macro breakdown that I am using right now. So what I wanna do before I dive into my full day of eating is I wanna talk about some of the basic principles that I like to utilize when it comes down to mastering your food. These are the same principles and the same meals that I use for Charles to help him go from dad bod to fit dad in 10 months. These are also the same principles that help me go from out of shape to shredded, the same principles that help guys like Adrian go from here to here, and the same flexible dieting principles that help Shalom go from out of shape to shredded. So these principles work. There's no one size fits all when it comes down to dieting. What you have to do is figure out a way to fit fitness around your life, not your life around fitness. This is the biggest mistake men make. They try to change every single aspect about their diet, and it just doesn't fit around their life. Doesn't fit around their family life and eating dinner with their family at night. Doesn't fit around their busy travel schedules when they have to travel for work. Doesn't fit around vacations and holidays. And so here's the number one question you need to ask yourself when it comes down to the diet you're following and you're trying to choose. Can you follow this diet for the next 5 years? And if the answer is no, if you can't follow the diet for the next 5 years, then it's not even worth thinking about for 5 minutes. And that is the honest truth. And so what I did is I tried so many diets. I tried all of them. I tried keto, I've tried the Whole30, I've tried Atkins, and a lot of them worked temporarily for me, but they were not sustainable over a long period of time. And so what I've done with so much trial and error and also working with over 1,000 men up until this point is I figured out a flexible dieting strategy that has not only helped myself, but it's also helped busy executives, entrepreneurs, business professionals, busy dads get into the best shape of their lives and stay there. And so some of the things with food you need to think about is this. First, you have to think about how many meals per day that you can eat on a regular basis. And so what I like to recommend is you can eat anywhere from 2 to 6 meals per day, depending on what works best for you. Personally, I like to eat about 4 to 6 times per day because that works best for me. Here are the pros and cons of eating 2 to 3 meals per day versus 4 to 6 meals per day. The person who eats 2 to 3 meals per day is gonna struggle hitting their protein goals. It's not impossible, but it's gonna be a little more difficult because you have to have higher portion sizes of protein per meal. The person that eats 4 to 6 meals per day, like myself, you might have a harder time preparing those meals because if you're super busy, it might be a little more difficult for you to eat those higher frequency of meals. And so maybe for you, the sweet spot is 4 meals per day. That's a good place to start. And what I typically like to recommend for my clients, what I'm gonna be sharing today is I'm gonna share my 5 meals that I'm eating in order to get ripped. And so right now, my current macros are this: about 2,500 calories, 215-ish grams of protein, 260 grams of carbs, and then 60 grams of fat. So let's dive into my meals. Here's one of the main principles that I like to do when I'm eating with my nutrition. I like to keep my meals pretty much the same 95% of the time, and here's why. The average American makes over 35,000 decisions per day, and they make over 226 decisions with food per day. And so I know in order to be successful, I know in order to move faster in life, I have to make less decisions and I have to make decisions fast. And so one of the easiest ways to decrease the amount of decisions you have to make per day is decrease the amount of decisions you're making with food. And so in order to make as least amount of decisions with food as possible, I try to keep my meals as simple as possible. And what helps is these meals that I'm about to share with you are bomb, they're delicious, and they don't make me feel like I am dieting. So let's dive into meal 1. So one of the things I do is I eat lower carb early on in the day, and then I start to increase my carb intake as the day gets later. And this is also what I do with my clients as well. So the reason why I do this is because eating lower carb early on in the day is gonna help me preserve my energy levels, and then eating higher carb later on in the day is gonna help me recover and sleep better. And so my first meal is always some type of protein smoothie. So the way that I like to make this is I like to make my protein smoothie with a Ninja Creamy. So I wanna pull up the calories that I'm having for this meal here. And so my first meal of the day is gonna be about 150 grams of frozen fruit. So I'm using frozen cherries for this one. 1 scoop of protein powder, about 130 grams of cottage cheese, and then I'll use a combination of almond milk or skim milk. And so this comes out to about 480 calories, including my coffee. And so this is a very high protein meal, has a little bit of carbs in it with the fruit, and it's super easy to make. If you do not have a Ninja Creamy, you could literally just blend this up in the blender. The reason why I like this is because it's quick, you can make it on the go, and it keeps you full going on until your meal 2. And so typically, the first thing I like to eat in the day, which is around 8 a.m., is gonna be some type of protein smoothie. What I love about the protein smoothie too for my first meal is I can change it up depending how I'm feeling. Sometimes I'll go with a mango smoothie, which is amazing and delicious. Sometimes I'll go with the strawberry banana smoothie. Sometimes I will go with the cherries, which is typically what I like to do. And so this this meal is the same meal, but I could change it up depending on how I'm feeling and what I'm craving for that day. So it's amazing. So 100% recommend throwing smoothies into your regular routine. Meal 2, which is gonna be around noon-ish, is typically gonna be some type of egg-based meal. And so what I did today is I did something a little special and a little different. I had flank steak left over from yesterday. And so I used 3 ounces of flank steak and then with 2 eggs, and I put it in a egg and steak taco. Man, this was amazing. I used a little bit of low-fat cheese. This came out to about the same amount of calories, 475 calories. Steak is an incredible source of vitamins and also protein. You can 100% eat steak on a regular basis and still get ripped. And so the steak and egg meal is one of the best meals and one of my top meals that I recommend that I love to have. And because I had a little more carbs to spare for the day, I threw in some tortillas. When my carbs are lower, typically what I'll do for this meal is I will have like some type of omelet. I'll just have the steak and eggs. So I'll have a more higher protein, lower carb meal for this meal too. Now we're gonna move into meal 3, which is the pre-workout meal. This is where a lot of men mess up. They don't know what they're eating for their pre-workout meals. They're just winging it and going to the gym. You have to remember that food is fuel. So when you're using food, you should be fueling your body in order to perform at your highest level in the gym. And so here's what I like to eat for my pre-workout meals most of the time. Typically, I'm gonna be eating some fast-acting carb with a protein source and possibly a little bit of fat. And so what I did today is I did about 80 grams of cream of rice with 20 grams of almond butter and 1 scoop of alpha-lion protein powder. And so this is a fast-acting carb with the cream of rice and then the protein and then a little bit of fat. Some other options you could choose for your pre-workout meal, and typically I like to have this about an hour before I work out. You could have Rice Krispie cereal, you could have a banana. So what I'll even do sometimes is I'll throw that meal 1, which was my protein smoothie bowl, into my pre-workout meal. So that's another good option. And so this is what I typically will have before I work out, 60-ish minutes before I lift. Now after I lift, which is around 3 p.m., I'll come home from the gym and I'll have dinner with my family. And so typically what we have for dinner is we will have a high protein source with a good amount of carbs and a veggie. And so what we had today was this, amazing, incredible. We had salmon. So I had 6 ounces of salmon with 10 ounces of rice and some veggies. So this came out to about 624 calories for this meal. And so a lot of the times for dinner, I will have salmon. It depends on what my macros look like for the day. Salmon, chicken, steak, lean ground beef. These are all amazing options that you could have for your dinner, but make sure your dinner should be pretty high protein. And so this will typically be my highest meal with carb. And so that's why I had 10 ounces of rice for this meal. When I'm cutting, this 10 ounces of rice goes to like 4 or 6 ounces of rice. But what I want you to note is that this meal does not really change too often. I'm still having salmon, I'm still having rice. The portions change depending on how my macros look. And so even though right now I'm 3 weeks post-show, when I was getting ready for the show and my calories and macros were a lot lower, I still was eating this meal, but it looked a lot lower in terms of the macros. So this is where a lot of men make the biggest mistakes, is they're constantly adjusting the meals and making too many changes, and complexity fails, simplicity scales. So if you want to do something for more longer term, you have to make it more simpler. Now, after I eat dinner, which is around 5:30, 6 p.m., I'll move into my meal 5, which is my favorite meal of the day. This is dessert. And so for dessert, here's what I typically like to have. I like to have some type of protein ice cream. Protein ice cream is amazing. So whether you are a sweet tooth like myself, or whether you like something salty, you can have meals that are later on in the day. What they found is that fat loss is not indicated or dictated by the time of the day in which you eat, or even your meal frequency. But the main factor that affects fat loss, that affects your physique and your body composition, comes down to the overall macros you're eating throughout the day and the overall calories you're having throughout the day. So if you're someone who likes eating late at night, just like I do, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., I don't care. You can do it as long as you're hitting your macros and as long as you're hitting your calories. So what I like to do, again, I like to use the Ninja Creamy. I'm not sponsored by Ninja Creamy. I just love Ninja Creamy. I will have a protein ice cream that I personally make. If you don't have a Ninja Creamy, you can either make a smoothie. You could throw all of this and make like a milkshake, super creamy and good, or you could buy your own protein ice cream like Halo Top or something like that. And so here's what I like to do for my protein ice cream that I make. I will use sugar-free pudding mix. And so for this one, I use cheesecake pudding, and then I will use some type of fat-free milk, so like a Fairlife milk, and then I'll throw 1 scoop of alpha-lion protein powder in there. I'll freeze it overnight so it's ready to go for the next day, and then I'll use a cinnamon toast crunch mix-in for today. The mix-ins always change for me, but I was feeling the cinnamon toast crunch, so that's why I threw it in there. Cinnamon toast crunch mix-ins. And so my overall snacks for the day, this is including the pre-workout meal, came to about 850 calories, but I know my Ninja Creamy meals and my protein ice creams are around like 300-ish calories. And so overall protein, overall carbs and fats for the day are this. Protein, 213 grams of protein, carbs, 260 grams of carbs, fats for about 57 grams of fat with 2,500 calories. I'm telling you guys, dieting does not have to be complicated. Dieting does not have to be boring. You can eat amazing bomb foods and get ripped at the same time. time and have a physique that you're proud of at the same time. You just don't have a system in order to do so. And so your homework after you watch the videos, I want you to figure out which one of these meals you want to throw in. Do you love your diet? If you don't love your diet, you need to make changes to it, because you should love your diet and you should be able to follow your diet the next 5 years. And if you can't, then you got to change it up. All right. So I hope you got some value from this video, from my full day of eating. If you have any questions about any of my meals, if you have any questions about what you should be doing with your nutrition, I want you to drop your questions in the comment section below. Make sure you like this video, share it out, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to learn more about what it would look like to work closely one-on-one with me, fill out the link in the description below and I'll reach out directly to you to see how I can best help. Have the best day of your entire life. I'll see you on the next video. Peace.